Welcome. In today's episode, we will be exploring how the music in WandaVision's first and second episode, which were strangely released at the same time, helps to add to the shroud of mystery that surrounds the characters in the series thus far. So please remember to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll jump right in. Okay, so just a disclaimer, this is going to be extremely trippy because, the subject matter is extremely trippy, and there's no way to talk about it where it's not trippy. So, anyway, you've been warned. Here we go. The music in WandaVision thus far gives us no more insight into what is going on in the show behind the scenes of the show, in the show, you know what I mean, than anything else does. What I mean by that is, unlike in any other film or TV score, where the music is used to provide subtext and add emotion to the characters, this score just functions as a time period appropriate soundtrack, if you will, that gives us no insight into what is actually happening, which only serves to deepen the mystery tenfold. The way this is accomplished musically is seemingly simple, but actually involves several pretty difficult techniques and tricks. For one, making sure that the instrumentation is entirely period is not as easy as one might think, because during the 1950s and 60s, film scores were entirely orchestral because, well, computerized music sounded like this, and computers looked like this. In addition to that, what was in style for film scoring was incredibly limited, mostly because filmmaking was relatively new, and films around that time often had very similar aesthetics, i.e. no color. For episode 1, the music was to me very cartoony and utilized a technique called Mickey Mousing, which gained its namesake from cartoons from Disney back in this time period, where every bump and hit would be accented by the music in a very comedic fashion. For episode 2, which was set more in a 1960s time frame, the music is fitting for that time period and style, which is slightly more nuanced and dynamic than the soundstage comedy style of the first one, but the instrumentation is still completely period appropriate, as is the way it's played. Now, one could argue that all these elements are simply the result of trying to portray that given time period, but I don't think so, and I'm pretty sure most of the fans have started to realize that there's a lot more than meets the eye with this show. And the easiest way to figure that out is, well, where this sits chronologically in the timeline with all the other MCU works is right after Avengers Endgame and all that madness, which took place in modern day. So obviously, we're not actually in the 1950s and 60s. But also, the obvious contrast in style between the WandaVision show, within the WandaVision show, if that makes any sense, and all of the other MCU films, even ones like Captain America, the First Avenger, which was set in the 1940s, but still totally had a modern look to it, cinematographically and on every level, whereas these are completely period, soundstage, real live audiences, the whole 9 yards, and appropriate music. And that part about the music, which is what this video is about, is the most interesting, because in Captain America, the First Avenger, the music was, it was mostly orchestral, sure, but it's mostly about the way it's played, That is what has evolved the most over time. Film scoring on a palette level, which palette I would refer to as your instrument choice, it hasn't changed a lot. Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War were almost completely orchestral, but the way they're played has evolved so much, Things have gotten so much more dramatic and nuanced, and the roles of different instruments has changed a lot over time, and then there's also movies like Black Panther or shows like The Mandalorian where it's completely modern and there's synths all over the place. There's dubstep. Did a video on that. Check it out. And, you can go much further with film scoring nowadays than you could back then. So I think that is the coolest part of this, because they're totally leaning into the mystery of this universe by making it seem like it's entirely set in that time period during the show. And it's not. And how do we know it's not? Well, at the end of the first episode, spoiler alert, the camera pulls out from the credits of the WandaVision show within our show, WandaVision, and we see a sword agent, clearly identifiable by the sword logo right there, looking at the screen. And while one could say, oh, well, maybe he's back in the 1940s or 50s or 60s, or he's time traveling. The TVA is in play, so it's all possible. But I'm going to wager he's not, because, for one, the set does not look like that's the case, and mainly, the music is totally different. And the contrast between all the in-show music, how do you even talk about this? The music from the WandaVision show within the actual WandaVision show is totally different from that last bit of music at the end of episode 1 and 2, which I would call the outro theme, which I actually think is the theme for the whole show, which is probably the coolest part, because usually your theme is going to be at the beginning as part of the intro, but it just goes to show how kind of crazy this is, that your theme music is at the very end. So anyway, that music is totally different from our in-show music. And the contrast is just the dynamics and the drama of the pieces. You know, like that outro music is dramatic, that haunting vocal part. It tells you a lot more just in those, 2 minutes of outro credits than all the music on the inside of the show ever tells you. Because that's what score does. Like I said, it provides subtext and emotion, and it says, something ain't right. You know, when you hear this, you're like, uh-oh, this show is a little dark, isn't it? And that's why the music in the WandaVision show, within the WandaVision show, is so great, because even though it's not that special, it's just doing what it should do given those styles, the fact that it's sticking with that illusion makes it a complicit player in throwing us all for a loop and really giving us no clue as to what's going on. Because music will almost always tell you what's going on, even if, you know, the characters don't know what's going to happen, you know, the camera work or whatever is still on one place. If the music starts to creep in and give you a hint about something, you know, it'll tell you everything, and it'll always tell you the emotional state of the characters. So the fact that it's not doing that job for the illusion that they're in, the vision, if you will, tells you that it's there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And I'm excited to see where it goes, because I'm sure that we'll get more of the aesthetic of that outro music when we get to the parts that aren't in that in-show, which I hope I get to stop saying at some point, because god dang, is that a tongue twister. Anyway, that's all fine and dandy. The real juice of the matter, though, is when, in the second episode, the beekeeper, who is the sword agent, clearly identifiable by the sword logo on his back, comes through the sewer. The music in that portion, while, you know, the palette doesn't change, it's not like there's synth runs all over the place, nothing like that, it becomes very dramatic. And by dramatic, I guess I mean emotional, and, you know, because think about it, fear and apprehension, those are kind of emotional states, where you could say that some of the music in episode 1 and 2 is dramatic because it accents all the hits and it Mickey Mouse is really hard. I'm using drama as more of there's an emotional quality to it. So that one moment to me was so cool because it represented what was happening in the story. The outside world, which, as I just mentioned, is represented by that more modern and emotional and dramatic music that gives a lot more context for the emotional state the audience should actually be in when watching the show, comes into our in-universe, in-show music, which is very kind of comedic and lighthearted and not saying a whole lot or telegraphing anything about the emotions, and they meld together, and it reflects this sword agent infiltrating the vision, Wanda's vision. There's no way to say this that isn't like a double entendre, trippy madness. Anyway, yeah, that's it. We got 2 episodes so far. I didn't even really want to make this video at first because I didn't know what the heck was going on, but I thought about it and I was like, you know, I bet if I don't, and then I see what happens later, I'll be like, man, I should have made a video before I knew what was going to happen, so I could have been totally wrong. So anyway, yeah, that's what YouTube's for. Speculation. I hope I'm right. I know that I'm right about the musical parts because I listen to it and it's music. And when I say music, I should say this more, I mean the score. And the way that I would define score is as the instrumental portions of the music in the show. The songs with lyrics, I would call that soundtrack elements. That's separate. And people have talked about that in their breakdowns, how, that Help Me Rhonda song or whatever it is, they're secretly saying Wanda, and there's all this hidden meaning in all those. Sure, but that's part of the story, overtly. Score is more of a subcutaneous factor of the film, so the work. So anyway, just wanted to get that definition out of the way. But yeah, don't have a lot more to say on it. I'm going to do a video detailing how the outro music, which I would call the theme song, is constructed, which I really dig that song, so that's going to be a fun video, and it has a secret connection to Thanos' theme music, so definitely watch out for that. But for today, I think that's it. Just wanted to rattle your brains a little bit and make you question the time you spent watching that show even more than you already did, because, yeah, it makes no sense. But anyway, thank you. Please shoot the like and subscribe button with whatever that red stuff that Wanda uses is. Seems like it's pretty powerful. And have yourself a good day. Peace.